We're back with Johnathan Harvey, and I want to talk about Mark Carney.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's talk about Mark Carney. So, I mean, you got to give this guy credit. The Liberals are back in play. I think they were at, what, 15% in the polls?
Do I have to give them credit, or do I have to give Trudeau credit for stepping down and the media credit for really bolstering it?
Regardless,
Yes.
we're ahead in the polls, so you say whatever the hell you want. I don't care what you say. Yes. Well, no, like, you have to admit it. Like, there was an energy around this guy. There's a bit more finesse in the party. And I think that this, for a lot of people, this was something they were waiting for. Like, they've been pursuing this guy for a long time.
Yeah, since 2017, right? So I think he's doing a better job of politicking, but I do think he has some weak spots. Like, he's obviously got a bad temper. It's been mentioned a bunch of times. You sort of see how he's handling some reporters. He is getting short with them. But that's the CEO mentality. Like, no, I know better. You're doing it my way. That's what that is, but you can't run a party like that, right? So I do see that he's rising in the polls. However, you know what? As much weight as you want to give polls, you see what happened in the U.S. with Kamala Harris and Trump too, right? So, you know, you can. It's funny because sometimes I'll lean into them when they're going well, and then I won't when they're not. So I get it. I do play that game as well.
Thank you for admitting that on television, by the way.
No, it is what it is, right?
I know.
But also, I really do think that the media is doing a good job of framing him currently, and I think it was smart they called an election quickly because I think his gaps are starting to show, and I'm not sure how much longer he'll be able to hold off.
And you know what? The one thing I have noticed with him is on script, off script.
Yes.
I mean, I'm an off script guy. I don't need a script, right? It comes in, I say it. I don't think I'm as lunatic-y as the president of the United States. But I mean, it is what it is. I want to talk about your reaction to his phone call with Trump.
Yes.
Because it sounded to me like it was positive. It sounded to me like, you know, there was an adult in the room for a second at the White House. What do you think?
It was positive.
Yeah.
He called him a class act. He called him the prime minister, not the governor of the 51st state.
System works.
So I'll give him credit there. But like I said earlier, I won't go too deep just because of how much time we have. But there is a direct conflict of interest or a direct tie between Trump, Brookfield, and Carney. So Carney chaired Brookfield for 2 years and was vice chair for 2 years prior and since 2020. In 2018, Brookfield bailed out Jared Kushner's company. Kushner Companies. It was a real estate deal. They gave him $1.1 billion for a 99-year lease up front. Kushner, of course, is Trump's son-in-law, and he was a senior advisor at the time. So there is a direct conflict of interest there. I'm not sure if he feels like he owes them, but it also could be that Carney is more pragmatic from a business perspective because of his real-life experience, and maybe that's what he's seeing. I don't know, but I do know what I had said exists.
So, and I'm not disputing that, but I think what you just said at the end there makes him qualified for this job. He is smart business-wise. Every single person I talked to, the biggest criticism of Trudeau was, this guy was a teacher. Yes. He doesn't have any real-world experience.
But I've also heard you say directly from your mouth that this country cannot be run like a business, right? So
I have said that.
Right. So, again, it's one of those things where I think it's beneficial, but Carney also has zero political experience, so that is also a negative. How far can you move the needle when you don't have any experience in the space that you're now the leader of?
Okay. No, and that's a fair point. And I did say that this country can't be run like a business, but everybody that says it should be run like a business is just trying to do the same thing. How do I make more money and how do we spend money less?
Yes.
And when we talk like that, we never actually talk about the things we're going to take away to pay for things. Like, this is the dumbest thing in this election, by the way, is all three parties now want to cut taxes. Isn't how can we do $6 billion more in tax cuts? This is conservative numbers, by the way, on taking $6 billion more out of the Treasury, yet we're running a $42 billion deficit? Well, how is that going to be possible?
It ended up being $67 billion when you actually track the overages plus the reduction in revenue.
Okay.
So that's just, regardless. I just wanted to score a point.
Okay, but that is still a lot of money.
But here's what you do. It's not really about cutting taxes, it's about cutting government spending. Government spending has gone from, it's nearly gone up 100% since 2015, like 280 billion rather, to about 550 billion right now. You need to cut government spending. You need to reduce the size of government. That should actually be the pitch right now.
Which one of them has announced that, though? None of them.
I agree, and I'm frustrated. But you know why? Is because when they go, hey, we're going to cut the size of government, we're going to cut employees. Well, if 1 in 7 or 8 people in Canada work in some sort of government organization, how popular is it to say that? First of all. Second of all, you talk about sound bites. We're going to cut taxes. That sounds great. Everyone goes, I'm going to save money. No. They don't realize, well, if you cut government and the size of government, then this starts to make sense.
Well, he did cut the size of the cabinet in half, which I think he should get a point for that, because that kind of helps your cause a little bit. We don't have a bloated cabinet anymore. But the other thing is, I'm just the kind of person that's like, okay, if you're going to cut taxes, that's great, but we still have to pay for that in the long run. How many times has Poilievre said, today's deficits are tomorrow's taxes? I want to finish this off here quickly because I want to talk about something that I think is important. This non-disclosure of assets.
Yes.
Why doesn't just tell us?
That's
We don't.
so silly.
We only have 25 seconds, but why don't you just tell
It's so
us?
silly that he hasn't done this. Let me tell you why. First of all, he's going to have to disclose his assets at some point anyway. But if he had done it when he was in the Liberal leadership race, it would have been old news. He could have said, hey, I've already disclosed this stuff. You guys already know about this, because he railroaded everybody in that race anyway. And then it wouldn't have been the talk of the situation in the current race.
Yeah,
Huge
exactly. We're
mistake.
going to cut to another commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jagmeet Singh and the future of our country.